If you've missed some episodes, if you're just now tuning in and you want to get a little taste of the amazing guests and the stories and nuggets that they have shared, well, that's what we're going to give you on this episode. This is your one-stop shop for all the fantastic things that have happened on the Charge Forward podcast. Please enjoy. I'm sure there's somebody out there that's just been sunshine. $78 a month. You heard it here on the The spirit of the Charge Forward podcast is really that of people that default to charging forward, getting it done when other people give up. And, I'm sure there's somebody out there that has just been sunshine and rainbows their entire life. But I think back on it, and one of the most challenging things is I see you go to Alabama, which is rock star. You wanted to go to Alabama as a school. You get down there, and am I thinking right that this is your junior or senior year, and have to have brain surgery?
Oh yeah, my senior year. Let's kind of talk about something that comes out of the blue.
Right.
Before I went back for my senior year, my dad, who had an aneurysm, said, well, why don't you just go get a precautionary MRI? And I did in August, and they found something about the size of a pea. No symptoms, no headaches, no nothing. So I got another one when I was home for Thanksgiving that year, and it was the size of a golf ball. Still, no side effects, no symptoms, no nothing. So they knew what it was, and that I would have surgery over Christmas. So that was an interesting Christmas break on December 23rd at 22 years old to have brain surgery right before Christmas. But yeah, that was a story to tell for sure.
Well, and one of the things that sticks out in my head is what it was for 24, 48 hours. You really could only say 3 words, and we don't want to use them here on the air, but there were 3 of the cuss words, and that was about it for the first 2 days.
Yeah, it's interesting, and everybody kind of knew that's what it was, I guess, the swelling of your brain when oxygen hits it. But yeah, I started with yep, nope, and shit.
Yep.
And built everything back up from there. So there was my foundation.
Well, and I think the other thing, too, that I find, just amazing is that, he was a doctor there.
Yeah.
And really had to come here and start all over.
He really did. And, that's a cool story in itself. He went to med school in the Philippines, graduated top of his class, which is, to think about that now is incredible, right? Like, you have to be wicked smart to do that, and my dad was. And then he did his residency on Clark Air Force Base there in the Philippines. And, the Air Force came to his medical school and, hey, if you do your residency here, we'll give you an avenue to get to the United States. And he did that. And so he did that, came to the United States, and when he got here, found out, he is not a licensed physician in the United States. And so he just had a new baby and needed to figure that out. And so his first job was in California. So when they moved here, I was born in Oakland, California. And so his first job in the United States was counting baskets coming off ships, doing that. And then he shined shoes, going from being a doctor in the Philippines, to coming to the United States and not having anything.
When Steve decided he was going to finally start addressing his health and his pain management stuff, I think it was kind of like a floodgate situation. There's a lot of people who talk about it a little bit more. Some people will call it operator syndrome, and some people will just not name it. But there's a lot of people that when they have a high-intensity job, whether it's special forces, whether it's a combat job in the military, even if it's not combat, a first responder style situation, when they come out of that high stress situation, their body is still ramped up and producing the cortisol to be able to get through and manage that. And there are a lot of people who struggle with mental health issues coming out of that and being able to calm their bodies down. And we noticed that with Steve, where he was having fun. He calls it having fun. It's not fun for me. But everything he did was very high intensity, high stress. And then when he stopped that, it came to a grinding halt. We left our whole community. We were going through IVF and infertility treatments. And then he also went to a desk job at that same time. And it was like opening the floodgates of, wow, what's going on with my body?
Yeah.
He tried to do everything that he was told to do by the doctors, and
Which is not normal.
which is not normal. He never does what he's told. And it just seemed to make the situation worse. And then with the health issues that I was having and the infertility and the losses with IVF, and my health kept getting worse. And I still, same thing, kept doing everything I was supposed to do, everything that I was told to do with the doctor's orders and common Western medicine. And it just made the situation worse. And it was early 2020, before all the fun craziness in 2020, we decided that we were just going to start stepping back and addressing our health in the best way that we knew how. And we did a ton of research, and we tried a bunch of different things and found what worked for each of us individually. And I think that's part of how came to me creating my business and then Steve creating his, is the bio-individual approach. Like cold plunge is a great example. Cold plunge is awesome for Steve. It's great for him. It made my migraines worse.
Oh, wow.
So, but I had cryotherapy, which it's a cold therapy. You'd think it would be the same.
Sure.
But it actually made my migraines better. So that was part of the reason why we added so many modalities to our shop, is we wanted to be able to meet people where they were at and help as much as we could help the individual person with their individual problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the great news is Emmett is proof that
Yeah.
you guys healed,
Yeah.
right? Or in the process of healing. I think it's a full-time endeavor as we get older to make sure that we're putting our best physical self forward and taking care of that.
Yeah. No, and being able to work on the healing and feel better in my own body also makes me a better mom. I mean, thinking back to when I was at that peak desperation and just fresh off a loss with IVF, my body wasn't healthy, I wasn't healthy, my mind wasn't healthy, and thinking about how exhausting it is to have a kid now, I'm really glad that I took the effort to work on some of those foundational things, because I'm able to be as patient as possible, more patient, more present. I'm able to enjoy the moments and not get stuck in that sadness cycle. So I think that's a really powerful thing of everybody has their own journey, and everybody has something different that will work for them, but to lean into that and listen to your body, and it's worth the effort of trying to heal from a foundational aspect.
Absolutely. And so what were some key things that you did that led to you guys being able to conceive?
A lot of things.
Well, Jim, I just kept climbing up there. But
I understand.
But no, it was a lot of different things. It was a lot of teamwork in order to do it.
Is it teamwork to conceive?
Well, in addressing our individual and our group, our couple of medical requirements in order to do that, and then just one thing I want to highlight before I let Bree talk about all the really good stuff. I feel like a big part of it for us was, getting opportunities to do either events hosted by the Green Beret Foundation that we were able to meet other people and hear stories, or the benefit from the Donovan and Banks Foundation, where they paid for us to go get stellate ganglia block, and then Bree wasn't able to get this, but as a part of that treatment, I was able to do ketamine therapy in conjunction with that. And so, all these different organizations helping us and other people helping us, and us also taking the time to try to address some things really helped us out.
Yeah, well, I think globally, the ability to, like, fertility is a problem. It's a growing problem. And you could argue it's because of the chemicals, it's because of how we live our lives. I mean, all types of things, even just the way society views masculinity or classic femininity. It is it's very concerning. And so I think this is a great time and space for, there's a lot of people right now that are, wondering, are we going to be able to conceive? They may be 6 months in or 12 months in or years in, and they're kind of at a loss because they've done everything that, Western medicine says is the right thing, and they're still striking out, or they're still having those very taxing failures that hit so close to home. How did you get into Reiki and the holistic side of healing and natural products? They all kind of mesh together.
They do.
But how did it start?
So La Belle came first. Well, technically the spiritual side came first, but we'll start with La Belle. La Belle came first because my daughter had chemically induced eczema. Not knowing what it was, I had a pediatrician who decided to help me because not giving her baths and just hoping she grows out of it was not a good enough answer for me. So being first-time mom, you want to do everything right. And so I signed to my baby, all the baby sign language, and just trying to help her with her leg. I had no idea what chemically induced eczema was, and it's just the chemicals within anything that sits on a shelf. Doesn't matter if it's natural, organic, pure, doesn't matter. If it sits on a shelf, it has to have a chemical. Mm-hmm. So hearing that, I'm like, well, I'm not going to not give her baths, right? Or I'm not going to just sit and hope that she gets better. So what I didn't know is my pediatrician at the time also practiced holistic medicine on the side with his family. So he helped me to formulate, know how to research, know where to grab information, what to look for, what oils not to use on babies, because baby skin is different than adults. Mm-hmm. All the things that we don't think about or we don't know about, he informed me about. And so I came up with my first product, which was a body butter. And, when I started, a holistic and natural products is not new. Okay. People have been doing it forever. Okay. So we just repeat the cycle. Okay. So me doing that, I knew it wasn't profound. It just happened to help her. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I took her back. It was gone. And he was like, this is great. What have you been using? And I said, well, I formulated this. He goes, well, that's amazing. And I said, yeah, now I'm going to work on soap because that's what I wash her with. Right. That makes sense. So started with the soap process. I couldn't go on Etsy or Pinterest or all these other places that now have information. And I say like that because it's not proper information. It's just information.
Sure.
But anyway, I went through and did that. And all of a sudden her legs were great and her skin was beautiful and there was no more issue. Well, then I had a friend who was like, hey, my son has this on his leg. They can't find anything. They're giving me steroids for it. Can you help? Sure, here, have some, and I just kind of did that. But then I was giving away so much that it started eating away at our income. Sure. And at that time we were one household income. So my husband was working, but I wasn't. I was home with her because she had a lot of medical problems. She, had acid reflux really bad. So when she ate, she had a chance of choking on it. And it was just a whole thing. She is my worry child. But yeah, so I started with that and it just kind of flourished into a business. Within a year of starting, I was already looking at doing a storefront. I went to go do a storefront and I found out that that same daughter had hearing loss. And I was like, well, what is this? Like, what is, and apparently we had taken her to, a mommy's day out program at a church. Mm-hmm. And we loved it there. But one of the teachers was like, do you ever notice if she's not looking at you, she doesn't pay attention? I'm like, no, I didn't. She's my only child. She looks at me all the time. Like, there's nothing, So anyway, we take her in. Super long story short, we take her in. They find out that, yes, she doesn't have hearing in her ears, right? She has minimal. Mm-hmm. You have to, scream at her for her to hear. And if she's not looking at you. Well, here she'd been reading my lips, and with baby signs, she'd been able to figure things out, so she was farther along than somebody who was completely deaf. Mm-hmm. But as they were trying to find a reason for why she didn't have hearing, they found a tumor behind her eye. So neurosurgery was in our path.
Oh, my gosh.
And so when she was 3.5, I was already pregnant with the second one, and we found out it was a genetic issue. My husband holds a gene, I hold a gene, and that's 25% chance we'll have a deaf child. And of course, I was already pregnant, and I'm like, great, what is is this one going to be dead? All these crazy things.
Sure.
At that point, we were moving from Murfreesboro to where we are now in Chapmansboro, and then I don't even remember the process for that.
Right. That was the least of your worries.
Yes, because then I had my second child. My, first was going in for neurosurgery, so of course I shut down my business, and that's where I was being beaten, right? Or it felt like I was being defeated. And I took a year off of that, didn't open my storefront because we moved and, I had a new baby and I had a daughter that had neurosurgery. And then a year later I reopened. I had $200 and I said, I'm either going to make it or break it. And here I am.
There you go. And that was roughly 10 years ago, right?
When I was 18 years old, probably when you was 18-year-old, Don, we joined the military. I think Don was drafted. But it didn't make any difference. We both went.
Right. You were going one way or the other.
Yeah. I made $87 a month. Don probably made a little less because he was a year or two ahead of me.
Yeah.
So
78.
$78 a month.
78 a month.
Yeah.
you think about that. What can you buy with that? My wife had to move back in with her parents when I was deployed overseas. No way with that kind of pay could we afford for her to. So then I get out of the military and I've got these disabilities and I don't know where they came from. And I've got to make a living and I've got to raise my kids and I've got to support my family all these years trying to make a living with these disabilities. So it's a lot harder for me to make my living than it is the average Joe walking down the street. And I go like that for more than 40 years. They can't pay me enough money to make up for all of that.
Right.
I did raise my family. I owned my own business, but I had to work a lot harder on account of my disabilities.
Now, your most recent putting your toe into the entrepreneurial world.
Yeah.
So how did you get associated with Fly Route? How did you come up and decide that was what you wanted to do? Obviously a big step to take, and you've already got some pretty good clients out there.
Yeah. So that's an interesting process because it's one of these. I got to explain a little journey too, where through my current role with DirecTV, and I'm looking. I'm responsible for business development and an ROI and all these sales productivity goals with all these partners of DirecTV. I realized real quick that I wasn't taking my own advice. I wasn't listening to myself. I'm this corporate sales leader, this guy that's teaching and developing all these entrepreneurs to be smarter when it comes to marketing, how they're utilizing all their sales tactics, things like that. And I wasn't taking my own advice. So I actually as I was looking and wanting to find this passion or purpose again, I was like, I need to get back engaged with my alma mater, my schools, and football specifically. That's kind of my love and passion, football. But so social media is a powerful tool, right? And I was on social media. There was a staffing head coach change at Wilson Central, my alma mater. So I owe a lot of my success in life to Wilson Central for sure, as a school and a program. But I saw that they were using drone technology, right, to process game film and practice and scrimmages and things like that. And it was beyond enticing and mesmerizing in my mind. My mind first went to the competitive advantage, right? How that provides value to coaches and athletes. And secondarily, it was more like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't, doesn't matter what you say, that's cool. And it's as sports technology has evolved and sports have evolved, that now there's a merge between drone aviation, right, or drone videography and sports. And it's so it was fascinating, and I just wanted to learn. Went to their social media accounts and followed them, and then I saw one day they post now accepting or expansion, I can't remember the verbiage, but they posted that they were looking for entrepreneur-minded, strong business leaders that wanted to partner and become a service provider in a different market. They're based out of Denver, Colorado. So I did that, 7 months later, approved, went through this interview, the process and the onboarding process and the validation process, and was fortunate enough to launch Fly Route Nashville back in April.
Okay. So how's that going so far?
It's going great so far. I mean, I got to give a shout out to Colin and Michael, Colin, the founder of Fly Route headquarters in Denver, and then obviously to Michael and the team, or Colin and Michael and the team. They're second to none, man. They've made this process so seamless and easy for me to be able to be co-aligned vision-wise and strategy-wise on how we want to execute on the business plan and how we want to scale. And it all boils down to client customer service, right? How do we provide the best videography, the best professional drone videography service in this small niche market, right? Basically, it's a small demographic of coaches and athletic directors that we're marketing to.
But for the most part, if I'm understanding this correctly, the market's not saturated.
No, there's
you're usually, if you're coming in, sitting down with them, you're the first one that they're considering.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of like, I look back 30 years ago, maybe more than that. I don't remember when I started selling cell phones. I was selling cell phones to people that didn't have cell phones yet.
Yeah.
That was way easier than it is today when everybody's already got one.
Right.
And so, I think you being first to market in that regard is pretty huge.
Yeah, and especially in this market too. And again, shout out to Colin and Michael from being able to acquire clients or express obtain a need in a different market, right, from Denver to Nashville. How's that connection? That's crazy, right? And then for someone like me to be able to see it and then obviously be accepted into their vision and partnership, right? But yeah, it's definitely Fly Route is an industry leader, right? There's no other professional drone videography service out there that offers and markets what we do and executes like we do.
Yeah.
It's just plain and simple. There's a lot of drones that fly to film athletic events, but there's nothing like Fly Route.
I started to kind of pace things together, and I started running into some problems. How do you clean a carpet? What kind of chemicals do you use? So obviously YouTube certified the honest, and then I see all these guys with these amazing shops, all the shops that I have now.
That's right.
All the lights and R8s and Ferraris and all this stuff, and like some of them are owners and operators and stuff. So, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I started to kind of put like almost like a little business plan together. I'm like, look, I got nothing to do anyway, might as well just do a little market research. So I called around, what would it cost to, detail, I don't know, a C-Class Mercedes, like $200, I'm like, damn, I can do 3 a day. I mean, $600, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of money. So started a Facebook page, went to AutoZone with about $200 in my pocket, bought I had like some sort of shop vac already and like a $80 power washer.
Yeah.
And then I bought, glass cleaner, spray wax, some rags, and I put a couple posts up on, there's like local Franklin buy and sell. Just put up like, come to your house for $150 or $125.
Yeah.
Clean your car. And my first car was an Escalade. It was pre-used, but she bought it used secondhand, and the detail department at the dealership didn't do a great job. She was like, it's a 2-year-old car, but it still looks like crap.
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm going to get them to pay for it. Can you come to my house? And dude, like, I could have finished that car in half an hour. My car had to drag it off at least like 2, It's just dusty. So I did that. She gave me $150 and $150 tip.
Okay.
And I was like,
well, yeah, because she's going to get the dealership to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's like, can you send me an invoice? I'm like, sure. I don't have an invoice, but I figured it out. Just download one, Google it, because she had to invoice the dealership. But yeah, I was like, $300. I'm like, I could have done this in an hour. And again, I like it,
Yeah.
Get up in the morning, my stuff is packed, everything is neat, I know everything is, I know my chemicals, I know what reacts with everything, how it works, and yeah, the rest is kind of history, started to advertise more. Then I created a Google profile, started a website.
Yep.
Obviously started LLC, and then I got involved in a couple like local cars and coffee groups as well. I was there every Sunday, and I still remember there's one Cars and Coffee in Dallas Landing. There was usually 3 of us on a Sunday. 3.
Yeah.
Because he was like, I don't know, if it's snowing, everybody's like, now every Sunday there's about 1,500 cars.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn. No, I mean, it was good. So yeah, and just getting the local trust and everything, and then when I started getting more cars and more bookings, then I hired a buddy of mine who didn't know how to vacuum a car, and I'll teach them all the ways and everything.
Sure.
So that was my first employee. And then I have another one. Then I moved into the shop. I was renting kind of like a shop space. Then we had our own shop. And then, things started to evolve. We started to subcontract a couple of things like, window tinting and stuff. And then I opened a place in Florida, in Orlando. And then our house flooded.
Oh, wow.
It's just the pipe bursted, We were going to a Super Bowl party for 2 days. Come back and there's like water coming out of the garage, like, But we rented it, which was good. So that was my wife's time to pull out of Virginia, because she grew up there. She didn't want to live there. So we kind of just traveled around. And I was like, baby, I just started this business. I just started stacking money. We got married as well. So we got married here, and we also got married in Latvia, which is a beautiful wedding, that I paid for as well. And I was really happy that I had the opportunity, family helped me before. And now we got married in Palace, which was built for Russian Tsar's wife.
Oh my gosh!
You can't even get married there. But my grandfather, he was a big shot, so he pulled that off. So it was beautiful. So then all of a sudden we got married and come back, and she's like, "We got to move," and I'm like, "Where?" Like, I don't know. I know 10 people at the time in America,
Mm-hmm.
So we went to North Carolina, went to LA, to Vegas, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I was like, do you know anybody like in Nashville? No. Let's check it out there. So we came out here, partied obviously for 2 days. That was great, downtown, Broadway. Oh, great time. And like, when you focus on, like, let's say something, I don't know, you focus on a white van, that's all you see on the street. So I kind of looked around and I'm like, I just see some shitty cars here, Like, I don't know, can I make money?
Yeah.
Bear in mind, this is, no offense, like, Nashville's cool, but before I knew it, I'm like, this is Tennessee, And I was in Loudoun County, which is the richest county in America. Then all of a sudden, I see all these beaters around. And then I came, and then she was still in the bed with all hangover, but I was just like, let me just go and check out National Cars and Coffee. Mm-hmm. And I was like, holy mackerel.
Probably one of the most critical and tangible pieces of somebody that you want in your life is the person who doesn't give up, the person that keeps fighting. And giving up and not to keep fighting, that can be interesting. It depends on how somebody wants to look at that word. Because sometimes if you end a relationship, it's not quitting, it's moving forward, right? And you have to accept that there are some people in your life that are here for chapters, and there's some people that are here for volumes, and some people are here for your entire life.
Sure.
Right? You just have to get really good at deciding who's a chapter, who's a volume, and who's an entirety. And each particular one ultimately ends up shaping you into who you're going to be. So not be judgmental about a relationship that comes and goes, but to use it as a stepping stone for the next place that you're trying to go, or where God has got your hand and taken you. You had to experience that. He doesn't make any mistakes.
That's right.
Right? So even though it feels painful that this person's no longer in your life one way or the other, you had to go through that, because the next one's going to be more impactful, and anything that you gleaned from the previous allows you to be more successful in the future, and that's really what it takes to be great at anything you do.
Along the way, whether we're talking about, your time in sports there at Wilson Central, whether we're talking about your time in college, or then Vanderbilt, or then back in Illinois, I mean, obviously you've popped around a bit, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. But who would you say has been some of your top mentors along the way?
Top mentors would have to be a couple, really. There's my high school coach. Coach Dwayne Alexander was the first that was able to kind of establish a connection with me and be able to instill these values and principles of, like, to this day, I live by this. Is, in high school we use the terminology reap what you sow. It's just the way it works, right? And especially in sports and in that environment, that's how I've lived my life my entire life. I've also had, I was fortunate enough that Coach Alexander was able to come to Cumberland as well, so I played for him as well.
Oh, that's cool.
And so he's been the biggest mentor and, inspiration throughout my athletics life. Throughout strength and conditioning and the collegiate experience, like I could name 3 or 4, but the majority of, at that level, at the Division I level, almost every coach is an inspiration, right? Especially when you're green and you're new into the industry, and
There's a reason why they're there.
absolutely, they're not just volunteers like me at baseball, right? They don't just run the sticks on Friday night, right? They're there for a reason, and they're obviously that Division I level NCAA professional. So taking little pieces of all of those guys and learning and truly being a sponge and a master of the game, right, and coaching and leadership. That's how I've determined a lot of things. And there's probably 4 or 5 different guys I can name, but that's on the athletic side. On tying everything together, the biggest inspiration for me and what I listen to the most and the most content that I consume would be a gentleman named Andy Frisella. You familiar with him?
I'm not.
No, he runs a podcast himself. He's actually the CEO of it's called First Form. It's a supplement company.
So I am familiar with First Form.
So First Form's his company. He also runs a bunch, I'm sure 5, 6, 7, 8, 25 other businesses, right? But his content relates to me because we have very similar energy. I think that, and also too, he's a pretty cutthroat, straight to the point guy. Like, hey, it is what it is. It's cut and dry.
Yeah.
You like it, you like it. If you don't, change the channel.
That's right.
And so I admire that. And so those are the guys that make impact for me every day.
In that space, who's been a mentor to you?
Oh my goodness. In the spiritual space?
Well, all of it.
All of it. Okay. The LBN part of it is me, myself, and I.
Mm-hmm.
I always strive to do better, to help somebody that maybe doesn't know they need help, right? Or people that are looking for other options. And I think all options are necessary, right? You do what you can. There's good, better, best. I consider LBN part of the best category, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that's just as, you know what I mean? Like, for me, it's not about the competition. It's about who I'm helping, right? How many people can I reach? How many people can I change their minds? How many people can we enlighten, bring back to self? Any one of those things. LBN was me, myself, and I. For the spiritual realm, that one's funny. So currently, I work with I like to call us mastermind group, right? Because we lift each other up. There's zero competition. We each can do what everybody else does, but we specialize in certain things, right? So we've got Michelle, who does a lot of the physical body. She does the ozone. She does Reiki as well. She's able to do medical Reiki. So while she's doing it, she's like, oh, your liver. Like, let's check on your liver. Let's do X, Y, and Z, right? And I had a client reach out to me, and she's like, ozone seems too good. Like, it's a clinic in our house. Like, how good can it be, right? I said, whoa. First off, check yourself. You're judging, right? This is pure judgment. You're uncomfortable because it's not in a doctor setting. What's the difference? Just the office? Like, what's actually a difference? And she couldn't really tell me. And I was like, okay, well, she is a nurse practitioner. So by the state of Tennessee, she's recognized to be a nurse practitioner. I said, but she's also a functional medicine nurse. So you have the best of both worlds, right? She can prescribe you a Z-Pak, but then also bang it up with all these extra like ozone and herbal remedies and whatever, right?
It's like the best of both worlds.
Absolutely it is. And then, she's somebody that I go to. I have my other close friend. She's pretty much like a sister at this point. But Christy is her name, and she's a emotional coder.
And I learned this from my dad. So my dad had 2 really good friends who were also mentors to him. Dr. Weathers, has passed, and another doctor of his friend, Dr. Dressler. They were really good, mentors to Dad. They showed him, how to help build a practice, or how to survive in Chattanooga, the United States. And I'll always be grateful to watch them take Dad under his wing. And I think I have 3 mentors that I've kind of cling to. One is James Sella. You know him.
James.
So he's been a great mentor to me business wise. He helped me a lot when I transitioned from inside sales to outside sales. He really kind of took me under his wing and kind of showed me the ropes on that. And then Dan, he was with Sprint as well. He was out of Memphis. He passed a few years back, and he was probably one of my biggest mentors. And then I think, me and you being friends, I think the way that we raise our kids together and we talk about family and family first, I think me and you are good mentors to each other, and I think that's helpful.
Yeah, bouncing ideas off of somebody that you think doesn't not have exactly the same opinion as you do, but it also is a good enough friend to tell you when you're out of bounds.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that'll just agree with you because they don't want conflict. Those are not your real friends. Your real friends will call you out on your mess.
Yeah. And I think that mentorship or those kind of friends change in the season of life that you've got, right? And I think a lot of people think a mentor, they have to be older than you, or they don't, and that's really not the case. I think that if you have to surround yourself with like-minded individuals that will also call you out on your crap, right? And so I think that's the kind of friendships that you need in life, and that turn into mentors, right? And so I think in today's world, the past few years for me is we've become really good friends. Our wives hang out together a lot, and it's Gary Meadows. He's probably, the guy that I turn to now. Like, his kids are older. His youngest is Lucy's age, and his oldest is 24, 25. And to see him walk through that life with his boys has helped me figure out how to walk through life with my boy, right? And so he's been a great friend, and when things aren't going my way, he's the first to call me out and be like, life's not that way, man. It's not always going to go your way,
Sure.
Buck up, and so it's like, he's been a really good mentor to me here lately. My best friend for my whole life is Jeremy. You know him. We worked together for a little while, and he's always been a great mentor to me.
Well, and I think I know it's overused, it's a cliche, but it goes back to the mentality of things aren't happening to me, they're happening for me. And even the tough stuff, even the things you got to work through, they're the things that create those moments that you remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it's just a mental switch.
It really is. And I think mentors, people, it's so important to have. For me, I want to surround myself with people that are either older than me or in the place that I'm trying to be, because they had to go through what I'm going through. And if they have things to offer, and when you hear other people's struggles, and they're at the place you want to be, and you don't realize all the pain that they went through to get to that place, then you realize that what you're going through is the process of what it takes. Not like, I got feet on my head, nobody wants me to rise. It's like, oh, this is what it takes to be great. This level of perseverance, this level of grit, this level of resiliency. Those things are oftentimes easier to hear from a person much older than you, or somebody that's in the place you're trying to go, because you're like, oh, wow, so it wasn't that easy for you either.
Right.
Because you make it look easy.
I think, too, and like we talked about, this comes up in almost every episode. You had backing from your spouse, in that you were supporting him making a big change. And also, when you were growing a clinic, he was supporting you. And so you guys are supporting each other.
Definitely reciprocated, yeah.
And so, in your opinion, you guys have been together, 20 years? Right at it?
Just celebrated our 20th anniversary.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic. And you've got two great kids.
Well, thank you.
We Branch and Castle hang out all the time. How impactful to your life, or how much of your success do you think is attributed to the fact that you got the right spouse, that you picked correctly, and you were supporting each other?
Do you want to answer this?
Well, I just want to point out, I don't think it's necessarily the success of the businesses. I think it's led to my happiness. Like, if I didn't have the right spouse, I see what some of these couples go through. And we even say to each other, like, oh, thank God. I'm happy. I hope she's happy. But God, entering the dating scene again or something like that.
Well, sex is important, and we prioritize that in our life.
Hey, it's part of it, really.
And I think that we have two businesses, but making our marriage a priority is something we said at the beginning. We said that we didn't want to be in business together if it meant that it was going to compromise our marriage. So we always make it a priority to set time aside for ourselves.
And she's better at than I am, but she'll be like, no, you're spending time with me today. And thank God she does, because that's how it works.
That's good. That's fantastic. It wasn't by design, but when we think about people who charge forward and people who default to leaning in when other people would give up, a lot of times it's because they have a supportive spouse.
Yep.
And so for you and Jen, what do you think, like, how important has the fact that you found each other been to your lives?
If it wasn't for Jen, I will tell you this, I wouldn't be in the seat that I am today. I wouldn't have the life that I've got today, right? So, me, I'm very, I like to take chances, or I like to take risks. Sometimes they're not good, sometimes they're great. But if it wasn't for Jen to kind of keep me anchored down at times, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today. But if it wasn't for Jen, I also wouldn't be as successful as I am today, right? Because there's different challenges that we face that she's like, we need to take this opportunity and run with it, like moving back to Chattanooga. Or you're not happy in doing this day-to-day stuff. Let's look at other options. I wouldn't have the education that I've got today without Jennifer. And I think our kids aren't who they are if it wasn't for both of us. I think choosing a spouse, or me choosing Jennifer, I don't ever want to say it that way, because luckily she chose me. I didn't get to choose her. It was by luck that we met, and she picked me out of everybody. And so to me, that means more than anything at all, because I don't want to say that I picked her, because that's definitely not the choice, the answer to that.
Sure. Well, I think we're both just incredibly fortunate. We have great families, and it starts with, great parents that gave you a foundation, and leading your dad, living your dad's example, and then having the luck and the good fortune and I say it this way, your picker wasn't broke, or her picker wasn't broke. And to have a spouse selection is such a big deal to the overall happiness of life.
I mean, I think that it's absolutely imperative that you're finding the right spouse to support you, right? And creating life and creating a family is important to be able to have a solid foundation to build upon, right? And I think, and I can't commend my spouse Kayla enough to be able to support me and my crazy ideas and my crazy, my high energy and high, mental capacity, we'll call it. And I never thought we'd be where we're at, and I'm fortunate that we are. And I can't. Yeah, it's 100%. We wouldn't be able to build anything without that foundation.
Well, I think we're both lucky in that regard, because my wife will tell you I'm too much.
So am I.
And mine is, Emily is just steady, and I think Kayla is very much the same for you.
Absolutely.
And it's that balance, right?
Yep. She's the cool, calm, and collected. I'm the highly motivated, move, go, ask questions later.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Yeah. So that's awesome, man. Yeah. That's awesome.
Having arguments and disagreements, it's not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you learn how to fight the right way. It can be really good.
Okay, please expand on that, because I love that. Nobody's ever said that before. If you learn how to fight the right way.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to, just getting in an argument with somebody or having a disagreement isn't bad, especially when you're in that fight. If you're trying to actually resolve conflict and not actually attack that person you're in conflict with, then you can both come out of it better with clear understanding, or with a path forward that works for everybody. I mean, if you fight the right way, people can come out of that situation in a better place that they entered it. Now, you fight the wrong way by attacking. If you don't care about winning, but if you don't care about actually resolving the conflict, but all you care about is causing more damage to that person than they cause to you, then you're all going to lose in that situation. But I mean, fighting can be good for couples if it's done correctly with the right mindset and desired outcome.
You want me to tell the wine glass story?
I'd love the wine
It's
glass
so
story.
All right.
Oh man, humility is that's a big part of marriage. Geez. So we've both been at least on the same page of avoiding debt for all of our marriage and knowing each other even before knowing him.
Even though Dave Ramsey is a curse word to you.
Yes, and the nasty B word. Oh my God. But even before marriage, I joined the military. I knew school was a thing. I knew I wanted to do it. My family was poor. We had no money, and I knew that was an avenue where I could do that. And then there was a sense of purpose that came after that. But I was homeless twice because I was so desperate to avoid debt at any cost. I was not willing to do it. So we have the same desire to avoid being controlled by money, even at the expense of housing. But we're newly married, trying to learn how we want to communicate and how we want to use that nasty budget word and how that looks for us. And I've always seen a budget as a way to control someone, and nobody's going to control me. And we had set our budget. We were on the same page. We were doing so when we set a budget, non-negotiables for us is housing, food, tithes. And for us specifically, we want to give to God before we give to the government. So that's like, we've got to put effort into making sure we tithe. That aligns with what our vision and our values are. And so all of those things, all the numbers were set. We were on board, and we both had our daily, monthly spend for our budget. And I had already spent mine, of course, and I was still not doing very well with that. And it was because I kept approaching it of he was trying to control me, and he wasn't, but I wasn't seeing that, so we had to have a fight about that. But we were in Macy's, and I saw these cute wine glasses. They were $19. They were these like clear with pretty crystal etching or whatever on them. They were $19. It does not matter. But also we had gone past what we agreed upon. And I picked it up and I said, I want these wine glasses. And Steve and I got into a fight in the store. And my best friend was like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. Because she was still new to knowing us at the time.
Sure.
She walked away. We didn't get the wine glasses. I got them a few years later out of spite. And then every single one ended up getting broken somehow while Steve was washing them. But that's a perfect example of we had a fight about it because I thought he was controlling me, and that's not what it was. We set an intention for our life. We set our vision. We both agreed on numbers, and then I broke that agreement. And then a few months later, we had to work through that again, and the fighting fair is really fighting fair, not attacking, and having humility is really important, and I will never forget those wine glasses.
Well, I think it taught you an important lesson.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great that you look back on that, and I mean, what a great lesson to learn for $19. Yeah. Speaking of building strong, you know, I would say you and I both have been on a health journey, and especially back when we first met, and not long thereafter, we were far less healthy than we are today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, I know what my journey's kind of been like, but please share with our guests, like what, you know, I know you did some Orange Theory for a while, you know, dialing in your diet, and it's not like life hasn't happened. I mean, you've gotten thrown some serious roadblocks and challenges and heartache along the way. But how's the health journey?
It's going really well. So, at my heaviest, I was 255. I'm down to 185, 183. I've still got about 10 more pounds that I'd like to get to do. It's been hard. I think the easiest part for me was switching up my diet. Like I went out, I did keto for a long time.
Sure.
And then I got bored with it, and so I gained a little bit of weight back, and then now I'm just trying to watch portions now and just try to eat smarter. I don't always make the right decisions on that, but
sure.
It is seeing my dad go through the health struggles that he went through, I have promised myself that I don't want to do that. Like I want to enjoy life a little bit more.
But I remember us having those conversations because it was like, he's a doctor, he knows better. And
no,
but you can't make your parents do anything.
Well, that and doctors are the worst patients. Let's just be honest.
Right.
I want to be able to enjoy, that style, that kind of life, even the older I get. And number one is I got tired of being the fattest dad at the baseball field. I got tired of when it was time to do the dads versus kids to be the slowest dad on the field.
Right.
I got tired of that, and I got tired of just not being able to, be comfortable in my own skin. And so I'm trying to get there. It's still a work in progress.
Oh yeah. And it will be forever. Because health is constantly evolving because we're getting older, and so we have to do things differently. But it's about trying to get that health span and that lifespan to match up, so you don't end up sick the last 10 years of your life or not able to play with your grandkids.
Recently, health's been really important for me, as trying to continuously always develop my own mentality, right? And throughout corporate world and entrepreneur world and the struggle and mentality that it takes to get through those, and having resilience to get through those. I kind of neglected my health for a long time.
Same here.
I think some of us do, most of us do. So really just being able to get back consistent, starting slow, utilizing my friends and network to have accountability partners and go and create group threads where it's like, hey, you did this today, we did this today. Oh, well, you're late, this, stuff like that. So where that's the journey that we've been on recently, and we're trying to clean up the remainder of our lives, right, with diet and exercise, stuff like that. So I would say though, what's kept Kayla and I both in shape the way we are is youth sports and moving. We don't sit still for more than probably 2 hours.
Yeah.
A day, really, and that's probably at 9 to 11 p.m. for the most part. So it's go, go, go all the time.
That's cool. Back up to June 22nd of this year, you and I both were heavier than we are now.
Yes.
And we got that way on accident, meaning we chose not to make better choices, and we let work and family and being busy and all kinds of things be excuses.
And chicken wings and Mexican and bourbon.
Yeah, definitely tortilla chips. And man, we started talking. This would have been kind of early or mid-June, and I said, "Man, why don't you do this animal-based diet with me, and let's knock it out." And you jumped full on board. And any idea how much weight you've lost?
Maybe 30 pounds, something like that. But that's my MO. Okay, I can't half anything.
No, all in.
It's like, listen, if we're gonna run a marathon, let's run the marathon.
Yeah.
Why take 2 weeks to do something when you can do it in 1 week?
It's like things. I don't want to practice it. I want to just go do it.
That's it.
Yeah. So, what's next on the health side?
Well, I'm still doing it, and I like it. The variety of it, and like you said, it's mainly. I guess it's kind of like a keto thing. Try to eat under 25 carbs a day and 200 grams of protein, which is work.
It is work.
Man, it's work. It's laborious at times.
What's been your highest protein day?
Probably like 250 or something like that. But that's when I just have like a bunch of leftover meat, and I'm like, it's going to spoil. I'll just eat this bag of meat for dinner. It's depressing. It's not much for family meals, you don't sit out at the table and, they're having like lasagna and I'm having a bowl of meat over here. But
it is high quality meat. It is
now.
It is grass fed, grass finished.
Jim and I took our relationship to a new level. We bought a cow. Yes, we did. The same cow.
Went to the middle of nowhere, Kentucky to pick it up.
Right. So, a funny thing too, I haven't told you this, but Jim's also like, hey man, you need to be taking these vitamins. I'm like, okay, I'll take a vitamin. He's like, no, it's these 13. I'm like, dadgum, man. I'm like, send me a list. He's like, I'll do better than that. I'll put it in your Amazon cart. So he puts it in my Amazon cart. He like creates this page, and he's like, all you got to do is click accept or whatever. So I did, and I take these 13 pills. Meanwhile, I've got a 5-year-old daughter and a 6-month-old son now, and they're in daycare, and with that comes germs and sickness regularly. So Kelly, my wife, is taking this vitamin, it's like but it's like 3 pills.
Yeah.
She's like, Quinton, you got to take these pills, right? Because I start getting sick, and it's just like, it's a little bit, and you get full on sick. You need to take these 3 pills. And I'm like, She's like, what is it? Jimmy tells you to take 13 pills, and you take 13 pills. I'm your wife telling you to take 3, and you won't take them. What kind of pull does Jim have over you? So that's the current battle in our house, is why I don't take her 3 pills compared to your 13. And I'm just like, babe, I'm a creature of habit. All right.
I do the same thing to Emily. I'm like, here's your new vitamins. And she's like, oh, okay. Now, so if we were going to do something huge for charity and we were going to have a celebrity bowling match, you got to pick 4 team members to bowl with you and a commentator. And the whole point of this thing is to raise the most money for charity. I mean, we've had some crazy ones, like Miles threw out Fred Flintstone.
Okay.
Bob went with the great players from the different eras. So alive or dead, celebrity or somebody who's on the team.
I think you do some people that are like. I think a good person. He's a bowler. He's a good bowler actually too. Is Mookie Betts.
Oh, absolutely, and a local guy.
Yeah, that's easy, right? Like he just got another World Series ring. I think he's got 3 rings now, which is insane.
That's right.
But that's a great one. He's going to get a big draw.
No clue if they're bowlers.
Doesn't matter.
Tiger Woods. Just an intriguing individual to me.
He was on Virgil's, by the way.
Shocker. Let's do Frank Sinatra.
Anybody throughout history.
Oh. Okay. So JFK.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, man. I think you got to go. You bring people to the event.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Tiger Woods. And the last one, you're going to laugh, but I just really want to ask him a lot of questions. P. Diddy.
Oh, wow.
I gotta know. I want to know the truth on that. I want to hear some of that.
You get to pick a commentator.
You know what? I like the guy who was on Holy Moly, who's also the sportscaster guy. I forget his name. He's called a few Titans games. Anyway, he's an NFL sportscaster guy.
I'm going to say Barack Obama.
Okay. All right. Barack Obama's going to commentate.
Just because I think he does very well in his public speaking.
Okay.
And he would bring in a lot for the celebrity, for the charity.
I mean, just the most live event.
You need somebody. You got to have somebody who... DJ Khaled.
I love it.
DJ Khaled. I could just see him. I could just see him doing it. That'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. If you had one bit of advice out there to give to somebody that's watching this podcast right now, and they're feeling stuck, or they're feeling maybe that they picked the wrong career path, or maybe that they don't have control over how their life is going, or their happiness level, or maybe their health. What's the advice you give to them right now?
First of all, if you're in a job that you're not happy with, talk to your employer. I mean, they're people, right? They want what's best for you because what's best for you is best for them. So it's good to have that open line of communication. Maybe they have an idea of something else you can do. Maybe they, will encourage you to go do something else. If they know you're miserable, they're not going to want you to hang around. Not good for office morale, but there's other reasons. And the other thing is really do some thinking about what it is that is your skill set. I mean, before you asked me 2 months ago if I wanted to be on your podcast, I had kind of thought about it, but just kind of like a business plan or anything else. I hadn't really written it down. I could kind of talk about it, but everybody has a skill set, and it's not knowledge all the time. It's not book smarts. It may be how you go about doing something. It may be the compassion that you have or show something. That's still a skill set. What makes you valuable in what you do? So, I always tell people too that, listen, when I'm disgruntled on things, I like to verbalize what I don't want to call it. I'm bitching just a bitch, but it's good to hear yourself say it sometimes. But I encourage people that aren't happy, like before you go into a review and you just complain, how do you solve it? What's your solution? You should know you better than anybody else. Better than your employer, better than your spouse. You should know you. And if you can't tell somebody how to make better use of you, how are they supposed to do that?
Yeah.
So, and that is not something like flipping a light switch. You're not just going to say, you know what, after dinner tonight, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think about me. And then tomorrow, I'm going to march right in there and we'll make things happen. Doesn't work that way. So spend time on yourself as to what is it that makes you a value add to somebody else? It's not like now, literally within the last 2 weeks, I'm discovering that mine is not engineering or law or anything else that anybody else can pick up a book and pass a test and read. All right, it's bigger than that. It's people want to work with me because they've had a good experience, because of the way I've treated them, because of the way I've responded to an email, or the way that I have advised them, or because they were used to having the volume-based experience, and then they got a different experience with me. Yeah. Somebody that actually took an interest in what they were trying to accomplish. So none of those things are academic. They're all just personality.
So what advice do you give to somebody out there that's listening to this right now that does not have a current rating, but maybe has ailments that are affecting their lives? What's your number one advice to them?
The first thing I would do, everybody listening to this program that served in the military, today or tomorrow, go file an intent to file. First off, if you don't even think you've got anything coming, file that intent today. Then you've got a year to support it. You can fill out the SF-180, send to St. Louis, get your records, see what happened to you in the military. If you've got any buddies, you can talk to them. Mm-hmm. Try to remember, did you go on sick call? If so, what for?
Yeah.
Was it for a sore ankle? And is that ankle still bothering you today?
Yeah.
Does not have to be combat related. Although we discussed if you ran into a bleacher on a weekend playing football, that would be a service-connected disability.
If it happened during your term of service.
If you were in the military when you ran into that bleacher, Saturday morning playing football. Let's say the bleacher wasn't sitting there, it was a military Jeep, and you ran into that Jeep and busted your kneecap. Now, that's a combat-related injury because that Jeep is a tactical vehicle. Mm-hmm. The bleacher would be just service-connected injury.
Yeah.
But if it was a tactical vehicle that caused it, that's combat-related. Every injury that I got is combat-related, and I never was in combat.
Right.
Don's would be combat-related because it was Agent Orange and instrumentality of war that caused our disabilities.
What would you say is the most powerful advice you could give somebody that needs to make a decision today?
I think it goes back to taking a pause in whatever you're doing. And if it's this decision on whether to move forward on something, I would ask self, just yourself, because it doesn't matter who else knows, but ask yourself why I do want to do it and why I don't want to do it. And a lot of people aren't in touch with themselves to understand, I think, that full process. So sometimes writing a page of positives and negatives, right? Being able to physically see those, I have more positives than negatives. Let's go ahead and do it. But I think really it just comes down to practicing the pause and really examining yourself on why you didn't take the leap, why you're not starting that new venture. Are you afraid? Why are you afraid? Is it a thought process? What is it? You know what I mean? And if it's the thought of failure, who are you failing? Who are you failing now if you don't try?
And it's so, when you're watching somebody struggle and you're delivering that message, it sucks. It sucks for you and it sucks for them. But at the end of the day, when it's done through love, maybe not immediately, but at some point, that moment will be the keystone that ends up catapulting them
out of the mess that they're in,
into their next version of success. And they will never forget it. I would say, even if the message isn't delivered perfectly, which I would always say, there's no such thing as a perfect delivery.
No.
But if you're doing the best that you can, this is another hallmark of mine, be the best that you can with what you know. And whatever that is what it is. Yep. Bobby Knight delivered a different message than John Wooden. But their players loved them just the same.
Oh, yeah. Those players went there for that coach because that's what they needed.
That's exactly right.
I love it. And God puts us in people's lives at the right time, and we just have to have the courage to do the right things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Team, is Jim Cripps here with the Charge Forward Podcast. I just want to tell you, I love you. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you for subscribing and sharing the Charge Forward Podcast with people you know and you love, because that's what we're here for. We are here to share the amazing stories, the things that people have been through, the ways that they were able to improve their life, so that you can take little nuggets from theirs and help improve your story and be better tomorrow than you were today. I hope that this is the tool you needed at the right time, and that you find value in the amazing guests that we bring each and every week. Thanks so much, and don't forget, new episodes drop every Thursday.